Mic check 1, 2, 3. Okay, it is working. Back with Gujarat Files. Let's complete another portion of this book. I'm copying the link. The stream. Where we left last time. I guess at 72%. क्या सुनना पसंद करेंगे आप? क्रिप्टो विद माही, कोई शेर? तो आज क्या है कि तुम जब आओगे तो खोया हुआ पाओगी मुझे। तुम जब आओगी तो खोया हुआ पाओगी मुझे। मेरी तन्हाई में ख्वाबों के सिवा कुछ भी नहीं। तुम जब आओगी तो खोया हुआ पाओगी मुझे। मेरी तन्हाई में ख्वाबों के सिवा कुछ भी नहीं। मेरे कमरे को सजाने की तमन्ना है तुम्हें। मेरे कमरे को सजाने की तमन्ना है तुम्हें। मेरे कमरे में किताबों के सिवा कुछ भी नहीं। इन किताबों ने बड़ा जुल्म किया है मुझ पर। इन किताबों ने बड़ा जुल्म किया है मुझ पर। इनमें एक रम्ज है, जिस रम्ज का मारा हुआ जहन। तुम जब आओगी तो खोया हुआ पाओगी मुझे। मेरी तन्हाई में ख्वाबों के सिवा कुछ भी नहीं। मेरे कमरे को सजाने की तमन्ना है तुम्हें। मेरे कमरे में किताबों के सिवा कुछ भी नहीं। सुन लिया आपने शेर? ऐश कीजिए। कॉपिंग द लिंक ऑफ द स्ट्रीम, शेयरिंग ऑन ट्विटर। आने वाला कोई नहीं है, फिर भी शेयर कर लेते हैं। इनको तो डिंचक पूजा ही पसंद आती को। गुजरात फाइल्स, आज़ादी और अरुंधति रॉय जैसे राइटर्स, कहाँ ये तो बड़े राइटर्स होते हैं ना खुद। इनको कहाँ ये छोटे छोटे राइटर्स पसंद आएंगे? दे लाइक द राइटर्स हु आर फ्रॉम अदर गैलेक्सीज, तब जाके सुनेंगे। अदरवाइज मजाल कुछ पढ़े, इनको तो चाहिए। ओके, वी हैव यू हियर स्टॉर्म टू। कभी मैंने आप लोगों का नाम नहीं सुना यहाँ पे। आप लोग यहाँ पे पहली दफा आए हो। सो वेलकम टू द स्ट्रीम फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल। आई एम जस्ट नरेटिंग और वी कैन से रीडिंग द बुक ऑफ एन ऑथर। वालेकुम अस्सलाम सिनेमैन, जिनका नाम राना अयूब है। इन्होंने गुजरात फाइल्स पे एक बुक लिखी। गुजरात में जो 2002 में जो सानिया हुआ है, उस पे उन्होंने एक अपनी रिसर्च प्लस हम कहेंगे ग्राउंड वर्क लिखा हुआ है। तो वो हम पढ़ रहे थे। अभी तक हमने ऑलमोस्ट 70% बुक जो है कंप्लीट कर ली। सो आज हम वही से कंटिन्यू करने जा रहे हैं। लेकिन लोगों को ये नहीं पसंद आता, लोगों को एंटरटेनमेंट चाहिए। और उनको तो ये छोटे राइटर्स इनको थोड़ी पसंद आएंगे। इनको तो बड़े बड़े गैलेक्सीज से, मतलब अलग यूनिवर्स से बंदे आने चाहिए, वो इनको नरेट करके कुछ अलग ही बुक्स इनको ना, जो एलियंस की बुक हो। हाँ, तो दे लाइक दैट काइंड ऑफ मटेरियल। ठीक है। सो चलिए, क्या कर सकते हैं, हम अपना काम जारी रखेंगे। ओके। सो आज जो हमें चैप्टर पढ़ना है दैट इज नोन एज चैप्टर 9th बाय द नेम ऑफ चक्रवर्ती. शैल वी स्टार्ट? कहाँ मैंने शेयर कर दी है लिंक. देखिए मैं कम से कम स्ट्रीम वाली जो है ना लिंक डीएम नहीं कर सकता है. इट इज क्वाइट ऑकवर्ड. जिसको आना होगा फिर मुझे कंप्लेंट्स आती है कि आप लिंक शेयर नहीं कर. लिंक क्या शेयर करूं? आप बेल आइकन प्रेस कीजिए, यूट्यूब आपको खुद ही नोटिफाई कर लेगा कि बंदा फलानी बंदा लाइव है. यू शैल कम. जब आने का गरज ही नहीं होता है, आप लोगों को कुछ और काम होते हैं, मसरूफियात होती हैं, तो आप मसरूफ रहें. आने की जरूरत भी नहीं है. मैं बुक रीडिंग कर रहा हूँ, इट्स फॉर माई ओन बेनिफिट. अगर आप सुन लेंगे, अगर आप, हाँ, आप टेलीग्राम ग्रुप बनाइए. देखिए क्रिप्टो, टू बी फ्रैंक विद यू, नोबडी गिव्स अ शिट अबाउट दिस काइंड ऑफ कंटेंट. लोगों को या तो उनको चाहिए वो तलहा का वो गाना चाहिए जहां वो खुद की आवाज ऑटो ट्यून में डाल डाल के घटिया से शेर लिख के उनको कंपोज करके डाल दे और लोग उसको सुने. या तो ऐसा चाहिए, या तो आपको मुजरा करना पड़ेगा, तब जाके लोग आपको सुनेंगे. दिस काइंड ऑफ कंटेंट, दिस इज क्वाइट बोरिंग फॉर पीपल. उन लोगों के लिए जो सिर्फ बैठ के आराम से इन देयर काउच, दे जस्ट वांट टू एंजॉय लाइफ. हाँ, जहन पे जोर नहीं देना है. तकलीफ हो जाती है. डिक्शनरी नहीं खोलनी, बुक नहीं खोलनी. ओहो हो, गुनाह है, ये बहुत बड़ा गुनाह है. मुजरा ही लाइक करते हैं सारे. वही तो कह रहा हूँ, बुक नहीं पढ़नी है, शायरी बहुत करनी है, शायरी बहुत लिखनी है. कहना है मैं शायर हूँ, मैं बड़ा शायर हूँ, मैं बड़े बड़े कसीदे लिखूंगा, रुबाई लिखूंगा, गजल लिखूंगा, नज़म लिखूंगा, मगर किताब नहीं खोलेगा. और उसकी जो शायरी, उसकी जो रुबाई, उसकी जो उसके जो कसीदे, उसके जो गजल, उसके जो नज़म, वो बवासीर होते हैं. क्योंकि उनकी बैकिंग ही नहीं होती है, उसने पढ़ा ही नहीं होता है. अफसोसनाक बात है ये. यही तो जॉन इलिया कहते रहे उम्र भर कि जिनको पढ़ना चाहिए वो लिख रहे हैं. ओके, स्टॉर्म टू इज आस्किंग आप कहाँ से हैं. जी मैं बरसगीर से ही हूँ, सब कॉन्टिनेंट से, एशिया से मैं हूँ. चैप्टर 9th चक्रवर्ती स्टार्ट करने जा रहा हूँ. I had asked Ashok Narayan to put in a word of recommendation to Chakravarti, who was a bit of a recluse when it came to the media and his peers from the Gujarat offshoredom. He had been hounded by the media, international press, and commissions because he was the Director General of Police during the Gujarat riots. He lived a life of comparative tranquility with his wife and two daughters in the posh suburban area of Khar in Mumbai. I had left Pani at home when I went to meet him. When my family members called me Nimi as opposed to Maithili, Pani would be baffled. I told her that it was my nickname, but my mother found it were annoying every time Pani would refer to me as Maithili. One day, when I was in the kitchen trying to fix breakfast for myself and Pani, she reacted. Why do you have to bring all the drama and acting you are doing in your office to your home? It's a office, not a theater. She was clearly miffled. It was not the change of name that bothered her, but the fact that I seemed to be living my life on the edge had begun to scare her. She feared for me. On one occasion, I saw her crying in my room. She was holding one of my kurtas. It's very easy for them to bump you off, Sonu. I get nightmares that a truck had crushed you, or that snake you stay with at that forgotten, that for godforsaken house has bitten you. I started laughing, hugged her, and assured her that nothing would happen to me. She kept sobbing. I had taken an AC bus to Bandra, from where I had to take an auto to Khar, where Chakravarti lived next to a well known school. In the same building lived a doctor due to whom the building was famous among locals. I was ushered into the house by Chakravarti himself, who introduced me to his gorgeous wife, who hailed from a royal family. The lighting of the living room was very dim, and that had me worried. How would I be able to record my footage in the low lighting? And what excuse could I give them should I have to ask them to switch on the tube lights? Walaikum assalam, NC. Welcome to the stream. Chakravarti asked me about my life in the United States, and his wife informed me that her daughter was aspiring actor living in the US. She encouraged me to get in touch with her actress daughter as both of us could be good friends, she thought. They had another daughter who came home as I was chatting with Mrs. Chakravarti. The younger daughter was a stewardess with a leading airline and chatted with me about how uncut celebrities could be on flights. I met Chakravarti three times over a period of 1 month. The first visit was very short, and I restricted myself to sharing the details of my shooting in Kutch and meeting various potters there and attending the famous Uttarayan festival of Gujarat. I told Mrs. Chakravarti of the delicious tandoori paneer her friend and Ashok Narayan's wife had served me on the lunch invites. Mrs. Chakravarti soon became comfortable enough with me to show me her collection of saris and family photographs. I promised to visit them again the following week, which I did. This time I carried a box of pedas for Mrs. Chakravarti, who introduced me to a variety of snacks over coffee. But Chakravarti was a man of few words. He had built a world for himself with few visitors and friends, mostly from his professional circle. His wife said that on the few visits they made to Ahmedabad, they felt out of place. Her husband, she said, was treated as an outsider despite being a man of integrity. I knew exactly how to break his silence while speaking to his more than willing to talk better half. I dropped names of all the officers I had met in Gujarat and narrated all the gossip I had heard. All this as part of a superlative display of naivety and awe. It worked by breaking the ice. Before I start to write about my conversations with Chakravarti, it is important to share some news items which appear in Gujarat based newspaper about him up after the media accused him of being an inefficient DG who could not control the communal fire which had engulfed the state of Gujarat in 2002. He was in the news around that time. I met him for refuting the report carried in various newspapers that Sanjay Dutt was present in the meeting called by Narendra Modi on 27th of Feb 2002. However, most of the witnesses who had corroborated Sanjay Bhatt's version, including a constable later, said that they had been coerced by him. Evidently, there was not much heft in Sanjay Bhatt's claims. However, in the same year, SIT Inquiry Officer A.K. Malhotra confirmed the presence of 8 men at the meeting: Chief Minister, Acting Chief Secretary Swarna Kanta Verma, Additional Chief Secretary Ashok Narayan, DGP K. Chakravarti, Ahmedabad Commissioner of Police P.C. Pandey, Secretary K. Nityanandanam, Principal Secretary to CM P.K. Mishra, and Secretary to CM Anil Mukim. Chakravarti was one clearly Chakravarti was clearly one of the most critical names when it came to the investigations into the Gujarat riots and Gujarat under Narendra Modi and Amit Shah, not just during the 2002 riots, but during the other critical periods of criminal investigations. On March 2002, Times of India published a report that DGP Chakravarti had fired a solve at the Gujarat government over police transfer. On my second visit to Chakravarti's residence, he broke his silence at last on my spy camera. There were reports on him having taken a stand on behalf of his officers, but none could have been substantiated. After all, he had refused to speak to the media as well as to his colleagues. As I narrated various anecdotes from my meetings with the other officials, Chakravarti finally began to open up. Perhaps because he realized that I had already access to too many of the record conversations. I finally had him speaking about the riots in Gujarat. It was the worst one could ever witness. The long and short of it is that there was no rational grounds to the riots. Here, the riots followed the burning of the train at Godhra. Now, no doubt the compartment belonged to VHP guys who had gone into Ayodhya. The full train was theirs. So what had happened was rioting followed. When I am seeing is that what I am saying is that normally when riots take place, there is a cause and mostly local. Here was a cause that seemed to threaten the Hindu community at large. Now in riots, who are the people who participate in riots? Poor people. Here all the rich people were on the streets, some people called up to say, Sir shoppers, स्टॉप में मर्सिडीज में लोग आकर आकर लूट रहे हैं. Since time immemorial, history has taught Hindus that Ghazni and Babur invaded India and plundered Somnath. So this has been ingrained in the psyche of Hindus here. And riots have taken place in India since 1965. Thousands were killed earlier. Question: what really went against him, Modi? I guess was the fact that he was from RSS and he supported the RSS and VHP during the riots. Answer: the compulsion was inevitable. A person who has grown up as an RSS cadre who has to bow down to their demands. Question: that's what I was told during the riots. He bowed down to the RSS. Answer: in his position, he could have not done anything else, especially if you have been groomed by an organization which was involved. And this, especially if you are a power hungry minister. Is he very power hungry? Yes, with due respect to Tehelka. What is that? It's a magazine published by Tarun Tejpal. You must have heard of it. It says that all officers during the riots were rewarded. Nothing personal, but what did I get? It is alright, but it's wrong to tar everyone with the same brush. It is prejudice. Question: is it not because of the most people who were serving with you found themselves embroiled in controversies or had a role to play, so you also came in the line of fire? Answer: but then you can't do much about it. Question: but the kind of person that you are, it must have been difficult to survive as a DGP of Gujarat. Answer: my approach was within my powers. I would do my best. I tried to help as many as Muslims I could. A large number of people who were saved just because Ahsan Jafari was not saved. Who's Ahsan Jafari? He was a Muslim ex MP who could not be saved. He was killed by the mob. His house was burned. The entire pocket was attacked. Police could not reach on time. Question: is it because you were the DG who got the flask? Who got the flag? Answer: see, under me, too many people work. There is a hierarchy. Commissioner of Ahmedabad, his IG, and then his juniors. I gave orders to the commissioner. I did ask him about the commission, but the commissioner says that he told his officers, but by the time they went, Ahsan Jafari was already killed. The damage was done. So the Nanavati Judicial Inquiry is looking at this, and the Supreme Court too has taken the cognizance of this. Question: that's what I am saying. You're paying for what others did, and they are not reaping the rewards via the state. Answer: that is inevitable. Which is why I am saying that the media has been biased. It has not heard both sides of the story. Question: you were never their favorite because of the stance you took during the riots. Answer: I believe so. I never became that. Somehow I always felt like expressing whatever I did. It wasn't gibberish. Question: you expressed your displeasure then during riots. Answer: yes, certain points I brought to notice, but then there are hierarchies and hierarchies which you have to face. Question: you don't have direct access to CM. Answer: see, there's a system. You cannot dictate to the government. There is a course of action. There's a system. After a point, you can't do much. You bring to the notice of the government certain things, and if they do not take action, what can you do beyond that? Question: were you upset that no cognizance was taken, whatever inputs you were giving? Answer: yes. But then this is a part of the game. Question: but you should write or speak about this. What really happened during riots? Answer: my daughters have been suggesting that. Question: so what about the inquiries being set up to look into the riots? Answer: One was the Banerjee Committee report, which said there was a conspiracy. But that had nothing to do with the judicial process, so that can't be taken into account as there were witnesses who were cross examined. Then there is the Supreme Court appointed sit, which is set to look into the individual cases. Then there is a Nanavati Commission set up by the state. Question. You were grilled by all? Answer. Yes. Question. Whose was more effective? Answer. Well, the Nanavati Commission was more effective for them. You know what I am saying. Question. The government you mean? Answer. Exactly. See, there are people, the prosecution, Muslim defense lawyers. See, I am not going to the media to talk. I will talk before the proper commission. Question. And the SC appointed one should be neutral. Answer. It should. It so happened that Ahsan Jafri's wife, his widow, she was the one who complained. Question. Your home minister was also arrested. Did you serve under him? Answer. Oh, yes. I had daggers drawn with him always. Question. During the riots? Answer. No. Post riots. He came in after Akshardam. Question. And you can't survive a man who is corrupt? Answer. Not just corrupt, it's also the mindset. He got arrested. There were court records which were incriminating evidence. Question. In what capacity were you serving under him? Answer. DG. Question. So you were saved? Answer. Well, no. He gave me enough botheration. Question. Did you feel claustrophobic during the riots? Did you fight? Answer. Well, I have fought. Fight from within also requires a different kind of thing. One thing is to be a bravado or to go to the public and press. In fact, Times of India wrote against me, saying if Chakravarti had a conscience, he would have resigned. Why should I have resigned? Was I the perpetrator? Was I the one conniving with the rioters? On the other hand, I was trying my best to save the people. I was also apprehensive that the people who may succeed me might help them. Question. That could have happened had you not been around. Answer. Yes. Question. Had the Band call not been given, things would have helped? Of course. It was given by the Vishwa Hindu Parishad. Question. Which was like the center. Well, VHP was an arm of the BJP, the ruling party. Question. Did you give the orders not on act? Answer. They didn't give any illegal orders to me. He won't sign his death warrant. Question. Orders can be given invisibly. It will be on the one-on-one basis, not in front of 20 people, out of which five may be against you. Question. So the book that you intend to write, will it ruffle feathers in the bureaucracy and the police force? Answer. Well, as long as I don't name them and just share anecdotes. Question. So were you marginalized since the incidents? Answer. Well, I had a friend in the form of Ashok Narayan. Walaikum assalam, Ainan. Welcome to the stream. Whom I would agree. Subbarao, the chief secretary, also a friend, but not really because I did not agree with what he did. Question. What's with the but thing? That stuff that you were speaking of that day. The website you mentioned carried his testimony. Was it true? Answer. It's not true in the sense that he was an SP level officer, SP in the intelligence, and Mr. Raigar was the additional DG who was absent that crucial day. So he must have thought he should go and represent. But since it was a meeting of heads of department, so he was not a participant. Mr. Ashok Narayan will have to confirm what I am telling you. Question. I met some of your friends by the way at Dafnala. All the officers, PC, PP, and all. Question. Yes. Answer. Yes, they all stay here. Then there is Kuldeep Sharma. Question. Oh yes, PC Pandey was saying you should meet this man who is now in sheep and wool department. Answer. Kuldeep is a nice guy. He's cupped up with the garment, hence he has been kept aside. He had an attitude earlier that he was the de facto CM. Otherwise, he's a good officer. He should have been the DGP today, but he has been kept aside only because he went against the government. And what they do is so they do not go to the court. The government is so intelligent that give him a that they will give him a side posting. That Modi is a very intelligent man. Question. Acha, that Subbarao, nobody likes him. Narayan's wife said he will tom the government. Answer. The chief secretary. He has been rewarded by them, and so he is bound to talk only about the good stuff. Question. So Subura was the one hand in glove with the government during the riots. Answer. Yes, yes, totally. He was very close to the boss. Chakravarti here makes reference to Subbarao, the chief secretary of Gujarat, whom everybody I met described as being the CM's man during the riots. A newspaper report described Subbarao as a former chief secretary who retired in 2003. He was rewarded the chairmanship of Gujarat Energy Regulatory Commission (GERC). This position is normally held by retired judges in Gujarat. And analysts thought that they know why this reward came to him. Question. By the way, your name was also there as the people who sided with the government. Question. Answer. Yeah. The magazine Tehelka said I had got benefits. What I have been rewarded with? All others have been rewarded with chief secretary, the home secretary, the police commissioner. The point is, a person is trying to be objective, then this should not be happening. Question. But even the Sanjeev Bhatt thing, he also named you. Answer. Yeah. You should also meet Sri Kumar. Are you talking about the minister coming to my office? That minister was there in my office for a short time. His name is I.K. Jadeja. He was very angry with me. He said, आपको फुर्सत नहीं है मेरे साथ बात करने के लिए. And I didn't want to be in my room. So I told my chap to make him visit in the other room. I was busy with my controls, so this Sanjeev guy must have seen him in other room. So there is no question of his interference. Question, but even if Bhatt was there, nobody today will say that. Nobody will want to stick their neck out. Answer. See, if that is the gospel truth, my limited answer to that is that the government appointed a judicial commission, and this announcement was made in the March in the assembly. Now, thereafter, when the riots subsided, and then these people who claimed that they are the repository of the all information, why didn't they do anything? Within a reasonable time, they could have filed an affidavit. So, this Sri Kumar did it. He filed about 5 affidavits. Question. But the tagline of this article in Tehelka says that this man can tell the truth. Answer. I had asked him because Mr. Raigar got transferred in the month of May and then the riots were still going on. So this Sri Kumar got posted as additional DG intelligence. So I asked him to file an affidavit. So he did. Of his own accord, not a word about me and others. And after a couple of months, he filed another one in which he said Mr. Chakravarti said this and that. So I gave a reply. Why did Mr. Sri Kumar not file an affidavit then? If he was such a Ramchandra ki aulad, he should have gone ahead and said this then. It is because he was bypassed for promotion. Now I had shifted to Mumbai. This is not to be ever quoted. So this man used to call me every day saying, Sir, can you please come to Gujarat because I have to file a case in CAT against the government, against his non-promotion. I said I cannot come because I am in Mumbai, and several times his family took the calls. So he said, Sir, all you have to say before CAT तो ये एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव ट्रिब्यूनल होता है रिगार्डिंग नौकरियों के लिए, ठीक है। इसमें अगर नौकरी में कोई मसला हो जाए गवर्नमेंट जॉब में वगैरह, उनको यही संभालता है. इज वट एवर श्री कुमार इज सेइंग दैट is the truth. So I said, how can I say something like this? And where is 2002 and 2005? Why talk of this today? So he wrote 3 affidavits against me, incriminating me. He sits at home making diaries. It's not an official case diary. So this Bhatt is also a Jatwala. And these very people, when the going was good, they were with the government. Question. So the meeting of the Jadeja was the controversial meeting. Answer. No, the meeting of CM. Question. So the Bhatt chap was in this meeting. Answer. No. As I said, Raigad was absent in this meeting. So Bhatt, by his own accord, decided to be a part of the meeting. But Ashok Narayan felt that since it was a meeting of the heads, he was not to be allowed. So if you want to be fish in troubled waters, you can go and show your face. Whereas in the case of Savanakanta Verma, she had the legitimate locus standi to come. लोकस स्टैंड आई मीन्स व्हाट्स योर पोजीशन. अगर आप ये मीटिंग की बात हो रही है 2002 वाली मीटिंग जिसमें संजीव भट्ट द वन हु इज इनकार्सनेटेड अभी वो जेल्ड है, ठीक है. तो ही क्लेम्ड दैट मोदी एक्चुअली गिव्स द ऑर्डर्स कि हिंदू को छूट दे दो और मुसलमानों को कोट दो, ठीक है. तो व्हाट इज ही सेइंग कि वो उस टाइम एसपी था. हाउ कैन ही बी अ पार्ट ऑफ दैट मीटिंग, ठीक है. तो यहाँ पे यही कह रहा है. तो यहाँ पे ये कह रहा है कि अब अगर बात ले लें हम सुवर्णकांता की, शी हैज अ लेजिटिमेट लोकस स्टैंडाई, यानी कि लोकस स्टैंडाई मींस व्हाट इज योर पोजीशन, यानी कि शी हैज अ लेजिटिमेट पोजीशन टू बी अ पार्ट ऑफ दैट मीटिंग. ठीक है. So everything or everybody is mired in the controversy, either encounters or riots. Answer: yes, yes, like a home minister has also been arrested. All the officers dislike him. Yes, yes, everybody hates him. Question: but why is a man like him serving as home minister? Answer: because of the political connections. Amit Shah and I had daggers drawn for each other. Kuldeep registered a case against him when he was in ACB. Question: so what did Shah do to you? Well, on paper, I never signed. Question: why didn't you all complain? Politically, he was too strong. As long as they were giving written orders, and the only thing was that he would sign the letters himself, not even the PA. He would first try to reason कि इनको बदलना है, इनको change करना है, but later he would himself sign orders. So he would sign orders that were to be done by junior functionaries, first time in the history of the country. What orders? Answer: transferring officials. ये मेरा आदमी है, उसको यहाँ रखो. So I would tell him, sir, government orders देगा तो मैं करेगा. So promptly next day, the order would come. So Ashok Narayan was saved the agony of Shah. And then there was this minister Maya Kodnani, जिसके बारे में हमने इससे पहले पढ़ा. Oh yeah, she was involved in Naroda case. The matter is up in this SC. Question: but she looked so innocent. Was she really involved? Answer: she was. RSS Wallace. Looks can be deceptive. Chakravarti is a conflicted man who has bitter truths about his own men in uniform who, according to him, spoke much too late, like Sri Kumar, for justice to be done. One may agree that Sri Kumar spoke a bit too late and that Sanjeev Bhatt's version of truth does not carry heft or present tangible evidence, but does that absolve Chakravarti of all responsibility as DG of state? Indeed, it becomes extremely difficult for DG or any other official in the police ranks to take on the high and mighty in the government. In this case, they were dealing with Amit Shah, who all of them, including Singar, Raigad, Ashok Narayan, Priyadarshi, and now Chakravarti, concur with was a lost man, least concerned about law and order, and gave illegal orders to officials. But was Chakravarti meant? But was Chakravarti, by maintaining silence, bringing the perpetrators of communal violence to justice? Chapter 10: Maya Kodnani and the Others. I had almost begun enjoying my life in Ahmedabad, or as Ajay would say, I seemed to be turning into a true Ahmedabadi. I knew how to manage an apple pie from Upper Custer, a famous bakery in Ahmedabad, at 1 a.m. The girls from the hostel I would go for an outing at 2 a.m. to eat eggs between the Durga Puja Mandal and Pandal and 9 days of Garba Pani, and I had danced out feet red. We had discovered a lunch place which served the best Kathiawad Ghatia and a lunch menu dishes lovingly garnished with red chilies. इसका इसी pronunciation ऐसी निकली कि best Kathiawad Ghatia. On one of the occasions when I had to vacate the room at the Nehru Foundations for 3 days, I found space at the NID hostel as a student. I shared the room with a student who would be up till the wee hours of the morning chatting with her boyfriend. Having wanted to stay in the hostel all through my student life, I was truly enjoying this aspect of my life in Ahmedabad. However, not everything was making me happy. It was finally time for Mike to leave. We went to Pakwan, his favorite thali joint, for his farewell dinner. His laptop had some stunning portraits of Ahmedabad, and by now he had learned to speak reasonably good Hindi. We spoke all night before retiring to our respective rooms. He had a flight to Delhi at 10 a.m. The next morning, I found a picture and a peacock feather under my door. This picture was of Lord Krishna, and behind it Mike had scribbled in Hindi, "Pyari Maitli, apna khayal rakhna." My friend, my comfort, my partner in crime had left me. I had one to no one left to talk to who knew Rana Ayub. Mike would come back to Ahmedabad for 1 day later. in 2011 for the final act. When I entered Ahmedabad again, it was sometime in 2013 to get hold of some documents. Maya Kodnani was back behind bars. The sting was done, and I was still waiting for it to see the light of day while continuing to work off Tahelka. Continuing to work for Tahelka. The officer whom I was meeting for the documents told me that he had met Maya Ben in jail. He said he was thinking of sending Osho books to Maya Ben in jail. I was surprised at the statement. He said she kept crying, asked me to take her out. She's bordering on insanity. I thought she could take up help from spirituality. On one of my encounter afternoon, इनका भी encounter आने वाला. On one of my afternoon lunch visits during the stink to Maya Ben's place, she had served me amras. We were past the mango season, but she had pureed the mango and stored it in freezer for her son who was to visit her from US soon. Then she hugged me and said, "You eat, it will feel like my son is eating. You two are like my daughter, Maitli." I had that afternoon explained to her the Gita Sar, which I had allegedly learned from Sanskrit teacher who is my father. She was impressed that a girl who had lived abroad had more knowledge about religion than those who lived here. I say, Maithili, we have lost our culture. Look at these Muslims, even these kids are so kattar. I nodded in agreement. The lunch was a simple fare of two vegetables, papad and puri. Maya Ben had cooked the meal herself and she served me as I ate. That evening we began to talk. There was no doubt about the hatred she had for the Muslim community, but more than anything else, it was her disdain for Modi which emerged in her conversations with me. She minced to no words in suggesting that Modi had conveniently used cases against her and Gordon Zadafia to eliminate the people he did not like. This new generation here has got nothing, no ideology. Even if anything happens, it will never come on the streets. So, in our religion, what they teach, do not even hurt an ant. And from the beginning of our child is taught this. And what are these people taught from childhood? That you have to kill. Only if you kill, you're a Muslim. ये लोग क्या सिखाते हैं कि आप एक आदमी को भी मुसलमान बनाओ तो आपको जन्नती परी मिलेगा. And all this is taught in madrasas. But at least teach your children that they are Indian. It's not tolerable that you will burst crackers when Pakistan wins. Question. अभी इन लोगों को 2002 के बाद कम नहीं हुआ? हाँ, अभी थोड़ा कम हुआ है. Question. So you spent about 8 hours in court. Answer. What to do? I am losing my practice, but they can't save me from court because there are 80 others. People like Tista will start shouting. Question. But tell me something, there's a lot of psychophancy around Modi, isn't it? I mean, all the good work is credited to him. Answer. It's good now, but for the long run, it's bad. Are you one of his favorites? I was a favorite. At least, if nothing, the Gujaratis will not forget what you did for them. Answer. They will never forget that. They stand by me. Question. What is happening with Modi post that Amit Shah thing? Answer. I haven't spoken to him post my arrest and bail. We have met twice, I think on two occasions. Question. So how does he react when he sees you? Answer. He does not react, does not say anything. And even I don't. Anyway, it's my problem. I will handle it. God will help me. Why should I expect any help from anybody? I know I am innocent and God will help me. I was not there immediately. I was 20 kilometers away from that place. I was at Sola. I went to the assembly which started at 8:30. I went there. I started from my house. Went to Anadi Bain's office. We went there. We chatted there. Question. So Anadi Bain should also have been questioned. No? Answer. I don't know. From there, I went to the hospital because all the dead bodies were at Sola Civil Hospital. My nurse's father was a victim of Kodra, and I had gone there to identify his body, Amit Shah, and I went to the civil hospital. Even Hindus tortured me there. They were angry. They shouted against me and Amit Shah. PI escorted me to his own car and took me away. Question. So, what's the allegation? Answer. They are using witness to prove that I was instigating riots, that I was leading the mob. I came to my hospital, attended a labor patient. 3 o'clock, I went to the hospital. They said that the mobile was there in this particular locality, so I was there. Answer. Question. Gordon Zadafia was HM, Home Minister. He was also removed from the same reason. Answer. No, he was removed because he was not in the good books of CM. So the CM didn't use witness like he used in the Amit Shah case to save Gordon Bai. Answer. No, laughs. Question. So he also got rid of Gordon Zadafia because of the riots? Answer. Yes, he went. Question. So it became a good way for him to eliminate people like he didn't like. Answer. Yes. Okay, my laptop is running out of juice. I have to put in the charger. Really sorry for the disturbance. Again, starting from the same line. First, let me check. ये मेरा डब्बा चार्ज हुआ या नहीं. Okay, charge हो रहा है. Good. So, so it became a good way for him to eliminate people like he didn't like. Answer: yes. Question: what's with this Amit Shah? Answer: he's his main, the one who is very close to him. Question: I thought Anandiben was more his person. Answer: Anandiben is the right hand and he's the left hand. He did every possible thing to get Amit Shah out. Advani came down to meet him. Sushma Swaraj went down to his residence. Question: but wasn't done when you were arrested? Answer: what to do? Anyway, there's God there. Looks like he will be portrayed as the PM candidate और उसको टक्कर देने वाला भी कोई नहीं है. He will make आनंदीबेन the CM. See, यही हुआ है. Exactly यही हुआ है. Question. ये सब लोग कितना बोलते हैं उनके पीछे? ये आपके एनकाउंटर कॉप्स भी यही बोलते हैं कि उससे यूज एंड थ्रो किया. हाँ, मंजरा बहुत अच्छा था. देखो, एनकाउंटर्स तो किए इन लोगों ने, लेकिन जो सही वजह है, द रीजन वाई द एनकाउंटर्स हैपेंड, ये क्यों नहीं सामने आ रहे. जैसे कि सोराबुद्दीन को मारा टेररिस्ट बोल के, उसकी वाइफ को क्यों मारा? वो तो टेररिस्ट नहीं थी. दैट कौसर बी, ही वाज बैड पर्सन, यू कैन एनकाउंटर हिम, बट व्हाई हिज वाइफ? क्वेश्चन. हैरन पांड्या एंड गोर्धन जडाफिया दोनों को निकाल दिया ना? आंसर. गोर्धन भाई तो ठीक थे, हैरन पांड्या वाज वेरी डायनामिक मैन. क्वेश्चन. लेकिन गोर्धन भाई को भी तो राइट्स में यूज करके फेंक दिया इसने. आंसर. यस यस. देयर आर राइट्स इन ऑल ऑफ गुजरात, बट दे वर आफ्टर द नरोदा MLA. Me. Question. Made you into a scapegoat? Answer. Yes. Question. So what happened in the Modi interrogation? Answer. He also went to the sit, but he has been let off. Question. But by the benchmark you use against you, he too should have been arrested. Haha, nods. Question. I am meeting him tomorrow, your Modi. Answer. When you meet Modi, ask him why is he such a controversial man? Question. Really? He turns everything in his favor. Question. So, did these people come to meet you in jail? No, none of them. So, you could go behind bars any day. Yes, any day, once the judgment comes in. What should I ask Modi? Now he will dodge my questions. You should twist the questions around when you meet him, praise him, and then ask him about you. Ask him in some other way. Ask him why some of his ministers are involved. Ask PC Pandey, he knows everything, he knows the truth. Ask him, he was the commissioner of the Ahmedabad. Question. So why doesn't he speak the truth? I don't know. Now I know why his face fell when asked about Gordon. Answer. Why should he bother talking about me now? Question. What about Modi? Praise him and his style of working, and then he will talk. You know what he will tell you? Trademark answer. I love Vivek Ananda. I love Sardar Vallabhai Patel. Ask him about me and he will say, अच्छा हम क्या करें, sit was there, phone calls record थे, Or he will just give a short and sweet answer, the matter is sub judice. Question. Then all these points apply to him too. Answer. Haha. Ask him that. Question. By the way, I was supposed to meet Jayanti Ravi and I didn't realize. So, was there during Godra? Answer. Jayanti Ravi, she was the Godra collector, the officer in charge. And that time she was in the line of fire for not allowing Anandiben to do any rights. So then she was not in the good books of the government. Now she's back. Details I don't know. Also, don't tell him that you know me and that you have met me when you meet him because he will keep that in mind. There is no doubt about the rumors that Maya Kodnani complained to the RSS when she was convicted while Modi was let off by the sit. There is no ambiguity that Maya Kodnani not just believed that Amit Shah was close to Modi, but also that Modi would go to any extreme to save Amit Shah. During her conversations with me, she reasserted the facts I had heard many times before that officers were used and then abandoned as per convenience. Now, Geeta Johri. I woke up Pani early that morning. She was needed. Pani was barely 18 and back in Greenland she used to do work as a confectionery chef. She wore the most interesting clothes. She was the life of the party at the foundation. Her face would light up every time we would say play Sheila Ki Javani and she would start an impromptu jig. She even did this one at Mumbai airport when we were leaving for Ahmedabad. I had a plan in my mind, but was not convinced about whether Pani would be able to help me or she would be enthused about what the latest jazz number she was listening to on that day. I asked her out for a smoke on the terrace and checked with her if she was interested in a long day trip to Rajkot. I had a meeting that would last an hour and I needed her to help. I told her, "Are we going by bus?" She asked, excited at the prospect. Yes, I said, at 6 long journey. And we would be checking into a hotel. I also needed Pani's assistance for another purpose. Her passport. In Ahmedabad, I had somehow managed accommodation for a Rajkot hotel, and I would need the necessary authentication, and Pani would be of immense help with regard to that. The next morning, we took the bus to Rajkot. I was equipped with the cameras and a backpack full of chips, my laptop, music, and chocolates. When the bus stopped for refreshments, Pani headed straight for the lassi cellar. The bus was full of men, mostly traders, so when Pani lit her cigarette, she attracted quite a bit of attention. I held her hand throughout as if to shield her from unwanted attention. Till the time that we returned to Ahmedabad, Pani was my responsibility. I felt like a strange kind of kinship with her. She was like the little sister I had never had. When we reached the hotel, Pani's passport did the mind needful. I was registered as Matli and she entered the room letting out a sequel of excitement. The bathroom had a bathtub and the glass window gave her a view of entire city. She was thrilled and I was nervous. Geeta Johri, one of the most controversial officers of the time, had given me an appointment. I had spoken to her about the profiling her as a woman achiever and also sent her a fixed script. When we went to meet Johri, she welcomed us into her room, telling me that she had been waiting for us with great excitement. She was posted as the commissioner of the Rajkot, and it was not difficult for us to locate her. She took to Pani within minutes, who animatedly described her bus ride. Johri then exclaimed that I seemed to have become a total Firang after having spent 8 years in America. You have such a heavy accent. She spoke about her daughter, who was abroad and was very often her friends would visit and stay with them in Rajkot. She offered to have Pani stay at her home the next time she visited, and Pani agreed immediately. I nodded for the moment. This was no time for any disagreement. I could explain things to Pani later. I began by talking about all the accounts of her bravery and then expressed surprise that one of the reports had something negative to say about her. Oh, it's the Sohrabuddin encounter. You wouldn't know much about it. It was a killing for which all the officials in Gujarat are under scrutiny. Oh, yes, I told her with my eyes wide. Every officer I visit talks about this case. She laughed at how a ruffian had held the state hostage. This was the same Geeta Johri who, according to her junior V.L. Solanki, had asked for the status report that was to be sent to the Supreme Court on the Sohrabuddin fake encounter to be changed. It was in the meeting at Amit Shah's residence that she had been asked to change the details in the report. The Supreme Court, while handing over the CBI investigation, had reprimanded Geeta Johri for mishandling the investigation. It is essential at this point in time for the reader to know Geeta Johri a little more intimately. Geeta Johri of the 1982 batch was Gujarat's first woman IPS officer. Her career graph had seen many ups and downs since the 1990s. In September 1992, Johri catapulted to fame when she took on mafia don Abdul Latif by raiding his den in Popadiawar at Daryapur and arrested his gunman Sharif Khan, but Latif managed to escape. In 2006, while on a posting with CID crime, she headed the investigators into the Sohrabuddin fake encounter and the killing of his wife Kosurbai. Following a petition filed by Sohrabuddin's brother Rahabuddin in the Supreme Court, a detailed and rigorous inquiry confirmed that the encounter was fake. The inquiry also exposed the involvement of several police officers. On the basis of the evidence gathered by her, 13 police officers were arrested, including controversial DIG DG Vanzara, SP Rajkumar Pandian, and Dinesh MN. The arrests were made by the DIG police, Rajesh Rai, who was formerly in charge of the investigation. Soon Rai was asked to quit the probe and Johri was reinstated. But before leaving, Rai handed over the CDs containing the telephonic records of three accused of his superiors. Johri had a major showdown with her superiors and was then asked to report directly to the apex court. However, the charge sheet that she filed before the Sessions Court in the case was severely criticized. The Supreme Court ordered that the case be transferred to the CBI after finding faults in Johri's handling of the case. Johri was the most crucial element in the fake encounter cases. I had in an open stated earlier, in an ideal world and in ideal circumstances, Geeta Johri would have been a role model for women who aspire to be in the services. But neither is it an ideal world nor did luck favor Geeta Johri. I began my conversation with her by inquiring if everything was fine, and she was looking quite stressed. Answer: I was going through a very rough patch last couple of months. Things were very bad. Question: when these controversies started, were you anticipating them? Answer: sometimes you don't expect them. I wasn't. There was no reason for me to have anticipated them, especially when you are doing a good job. You don't expect anybody to find anything wrong. But things go wrong at times due to reasons, sometimes they are political. Question: yours are more political. Answer: yes, mine was more political. She was looking quite stressed. Okay. Different set of different governments in the different state and different at the center. Question: I have been reading a lot about you. I was told you. I was told you almost stalled the parliament. Haha. Yes, that's our Rabuddin case. There were some nasty press reports. Media reports said all the nasty things about me. Question: so you are saying that CBI never wanted to arrest you? Answer: no, the CBI never said that it wanted to arrest me. I was in London at that point of time, undergoing training, and I kept on hearing about this. When I came back, I saw all these press reports. I mean, if you have got evidence, you present it. That's what I asked. This is all of the record. All right. So they basically asked me about the Home Minister. Now I never saw eye to eye with Home Minister. So I told them, and then I never saw eye to eye with Amit Shah when the CBI asked me about it. And nobody, no politician talks to me because they are really scared of me. You know, nobody was called me in the last, nobody has called me in the last 2 years. Question: Is it the same Home Minister? Yes, Home Minister Amit Shah. It may be ridiculous, but I never wanted to speak to him. It was just a threat they were giving me. My husband has been a pillar of sport. He has been with me through thick and thin. He helped me drafts all the applications. He is the forest officer based in Gandhinagar. Question: Everybody has been talking about the fake encounter, the Sohrabuddin encounter. Interesting case. Answer: More than him, his wife, Kosar B. She was an old man. I mean, she had two kids, both teenagers. She must have been around 35 to 40. She was already married to somebody else. She had gone to Indore, to be with her sister. Her sister used to run a beauty salon. And there's where she fell in love with the Sohrabuddin. They got married. She got a divorce from her husband. He's a criminal and extortionist. Question: And because of a criminal, a state went into an upheaval. Answer: Well, he was a criminal and they wanted to kill Sohrabuddin in an encounter, but they did it foolishly. They picked him up from a bus full of people. You don't do that. These are things supposed to be done in a clandestine manner, not so openly. This is how they got caught. Question: And hence the woman also got encountered. No, she refused to leave him because she realized that they will encounter him. When they killed him, they realized that Kosabi will speak out as they killed her. So basically, the issue was not Sohrabuddin got encountered. The issue was that Kosabi was killed. Sohrabuddin looked genuine. Kosabi's family got a whiff and went to the Supreme Court. At that point of time, I was the CID crime. So the Supreme Court decided to send that case to us. I guess me, being a woman, it was a woman who went missing, hence the case came to me. So I went about finding her. Then the whole thing started. Then it turned out to be more political. Kosabi and Sohrabuddin, everybody forgot. Question: Why was the Home Minister involved? Answer: Because they came out with this that it was illegally directed, illegally killed. So Arabiddin got killed and his Kosabi was killed. And when you start investigating, everything comes out. That must have been done at the behest of the Home Minister. But there was no evidence, direct evidence. 13 police officers I had arrested. That was a lot, you know. It was like working against the tide, working against the state, the roughest patch, working against your own people. Yes. But the government would put so much pressure on you. Answer: Yes, everybody did. My own colleagues and the internal conflict, but at the end of it, so even I didn't subscribe to Sohrabuddin, but there are many. You have to do things in a seemingly legal manner. At least on paper, you have to make it look seemingly legally correct. Question: That must have been a hell of a time for you. Answer: Yes. I was not very comfortable in arresting the officers, at least in the Sohrabuddin case. I was convinced. Kausar B, I was convinced. The HM was not arrested then. Answer: No, I did not arrest him because if you are arresting your own man, you go by pure evidence. But the CBI arrested him. The CBI arrested only the HM and one more officer. 13 were arrested by me. They did not arrest any other person or have put one item more in it. They arrested the HM on legally flimsy evidence, and I didn't. Many people insist that Johri, who was initially doing a fine job with the fake encounter case, was blackmailed with certain corruption cases that were linked to her husband. A note that was presented to the CBI said that her husband Anil was who was an IFS officer was the reason she obfuscated the process of investigation, saved Amit Shah from the case. But it is still baffling that a police officer who rode into the den of noted gangsters in an auto could have been made to buckle via blackmail. That there was a concerted effort to save Amit Shah, especially after Geeta Johri wrote off pressure from the CBI speaks volumes. Incidentally, days before the CBI was to question Geeta Johri again, Arun Jaitley, then the leader of the opposition in the Rajya Sabha, wrote a long letter to the then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh on 27th of September 2013. This extract from the letter is particularly interesting. The Congress strategy in the face of depleting popularity is clear. Congress cannot fight the BJP and Narendra Modi politically. Defeat stares them in the face. By misuse of investigating agencies, they have so far tried various methods of falsely implicating Narendra Modi and Chief Minister of Gujarat, Shri Amit Shah, the then Home Minister and also the Minister of Law, Transport and Parliamentary Affairs of the state of Gujarat and General Secretary of the Bharatiya Janata Party and other important leaders. This letter from Amit Arun Jaitley was published just 2 weeks after DG Vanzara, who was behind bars for 7 years for the Sohrabuddin case and Tulsi Prajapati fake encounter cases, and later accused in the Ashrat Jahan case, wrote a letter accusing Amit Shah of trickery. He wrote that Shah had ensured that all cops arrested in the case were languishing in jail while he manipulated the judiciary to keep himself out of trouble. In his letter, Vanzara had summarized the sentiments of officers like Girish Singhal, who accused the Modi Shah duo of the use and throw policy. He wrote, with the passage of time, I realized that the government was not only interested in protecting us, but it also has been clandestinely making all efforts to keep me and my officers in the jail so as to save its own skin from CBI on one hand and gain political benefits on the other. It is everybody's knowledge that the government has been reaping very rich political dividends since the last 12 years by keeping the glow of the encounter cases alive in the sky of the Gujarat while otherwise remaining in the low profile and indifferent to fate to the fate of jailed police officers. With all regards for the Honorable Supreme Court of India, I sincerely believe that the state, but for the legal and the political intrigues, mechanizations, and the maneuverings of the Shri Amit Bhai Shah, the trial of the Sohrabuddin encounter, followed by that of the Tulsiram Prajapati, would not have gone out of the state of Gujarat. I would like to state in the most unambiguous words that this government, through the dirty tactics of Sri Amit Bhai Shah, is unfortunately managing only for its own self, so as to swim and continue to prosper in all directions, while ditching the police officers so as to sink and allow them to die a unnatural death by drowning. I have been maintaining by graceful silence for such a long time, and only because of my supreme faith in highest respect for Sri Narendra Modi, Honorable Chief Minister of Gujarat, whom I used to adore like a god. But I am sorry to state that my God could not rise to the occasion under the evil influence of the Shri Amit Shah, who usurped his eyes and his ears and has been successfully misguiding him by converting goats into dogs and dogs into goats since last 12 years. His unholy grip over the state administration is so complete that he is almost running the government of Gujarat by proxy. The letter dominated news headlines as here. And the very man who had once been so close to both Narendra Modi and Amit Shah was now accusing them of conspiracy, promising to reveal more in the days to follow. Within days, another absconding officer, ex-DGP BP Pandey, who was an accused in the Shah Jahan case, appeared and promised to speak to the media as well on that matter. Within the months of the BJP coming to power at the center in Delhi, bail was granted to DG Vandara and he was given a hero's welcome in Gujarat. Other officers like Rajkumar Pandian and Abe Chandu Sama, who had been arrested as two of the main accused in the Sohrabuddin encounter, are now out on bail and had been reinstated by the Gujarat police. Earlier this year, the CBI dropped all the charges against the Geeta Jori, who had been promoted to GGP of Police Gujarat. The wheels of the justice in all cases in Gujarat clearly seem to have been turned backwards. Heron Pandey. While reporting for Tehelka in Mumbai in 2008, I had met Mumbai encounter cop Daya Nayak on several occasions. Daya is quite a character, and last I checked, he did not wish to speak to me because I had mentioned his alleged involvement in the Sadiq Jamal fake encounter case in Gujarat. The CBI had questioned him and Pradeep Sharma extensively, both of whom had to be suspended. At one point, both Daya Nayak and Pradeep Sharma were the most high-profile cops in Mumbai. Filmmaker Ram Gopal Verma even made a film, Ab Tak Chappan, about these two cops. They were eulogized and were the toast of the society circles till they were finally caught on the wrong side of law. Daya had made friends in the media, or rather, he was very media savvy. He would be a regular Costa Cafe Coffee Day at Lokhandwala Market, where his friends from the gym would come and say hello to him. Nayak loved to flaunt his revolver, which was always tucked to his trousers. During one of my meetings with him in 2008, when my colleague and I were working on a series on the misuse of Macoca, MCOCA. I think you guys know it. नहीं पता तो गूगल सर्च मार लो. ठीक है? The draconian terror law in Maharashtra. Nayak said something that stayed with me. The biggest political murder in the country, he said, had happened in Gujarat, that of Haran Pandey, Modi's arch rival. I asked him if he had proof. He said, "You're the journalist. It's your job to investigate." Investigate. We left the conversation at that. Once back home, I had tried to read up every possible story of Haran Pandya's assassination. There had been an element of doubt ever since Pandya was assassinated by alleged Muslim men. But Pandya's father, Vittal Pandya, maintained that till his last breath that his son had been murdered by his political rivals in Gujarat. His wife, Jagruti Pandya, who had contested the elections in Gujarat, had also said that the CM and whichever involved in Pandya's murder. But her claim had been taken as the manifestation of the anguish that had grief-stricken family members were feeling. One story in this regard that was clear in my memory was coincidentally an investigation report written by senior journalist Sankarshan Thakur. I am briefly recounting here many findings from the Sankarshan's brilliant reportage. Yadram, the lone eyewitness, says he was too dazed by what he saw to even move from the spot for an hour. When he does move, he informs the police, but his seat, a local businessman called Snehal Andelwala does not inform the police either. Although he knows the man lying dead in Maruti 800 in the Law Gardens parking lot is Heron Pandey. He calls Pandey's associate Prakasha and tells him instead. Shah too does not call the police. He calls Pandya's secretary Nilesh Bhatt, who is at Pandya's house, already worrying about him why his boss is late returning. It is then that Bhatt rushes to Law Gardens, locates the car, and opens it to find his boss repeatedly shot. This is at a little past 10. Gujarat's former state minister for home has been lying dead in a car in the center of the town for more than 2 hours. Meantime, the Elsbridge police receive another call from the control room, find out what's happening at Law Gardens. There's a commotion, there are rumors. Now, another SI, YA Sheikh, heads out. Midway to Law Gardens, Sheikh gets another control room call, go to Parimal Gardens, not Law Gardens. He changed course at 10:50. He gets yet another call, this time head to Law Gardens. He lands there at 10:54, nearly 3 hours after Pandya might have been shot. And guess what? Sheikh's colleague, S.I. Nayak, who started for Law Gardens ahead of him, still hasn't reached the spot. Who was ordering the local police about that morning? Why such delay in getting to a spot that is no more than 10 minutes away? The post mortem conducted at the VS hospital the same afternoon reveals Pandya sustained 7 bullet injuries. From 5 bullets, 5 of these injuries are zero point 0.8 centimeter in diameter and 2 are zero point 0.5 centimeter. It is scientifically possible for the same firearm to cause different size wounds because of surface tension and resistance. It's also possible for 5 bullets to leave 7 injuries because bullets can travel through body parts. But independent experts who have examined the case closely maintain that it is highly unlikely in this case. 2 bullets, in other words, have not been traced. The bullets that caused injury number 5 on the postmortem report was fired in the lower part of Pandya's scrotum and traveled upwards in his chest, piercing his abdominal wall. Is it possible for a man sitting in a car and a heavy set 6 foot plus man like Pandya in a small Maruti 800 at that to be shot through his scrotum and man shot through his scrotum as Pandya was is going to bleed profusely? The scrotum is an intricate web of blood vessels that control the body temperature. Did Pandya bleed? Yes. Are there traces in the car? No. Pandya was shot through his scrotum, his neck twice, through his chest, once through his arm. The car should have been drenched, or at least his seat should have been. Yet forensic reports find no evidence of blood in the vehicle, save for a dab on the front passenger seat and another case on the keychain. Central Forensic Sciences Laboratory Report Number CFSL 2003 by F0232. Forensic reports also do not record any gunshot residue inside Pandya's car. Report of Mobile Forensic Science Laboratory, Gujarat State. 5 bullets, if not more, were fired into him, apparently while he sat in the car, yet no bullet residues. Was Haran Pandey shot? Was Haran Pandey shot in his car at all? Or did the murder happen elsewhere and was his body planted in the car later? Where did Pandey go after he had left home that morning? There are clues that could help find out, but they have been vanished or become unavailable. When Pandya's body was taken out of the car at Law Gardens, he was wearing shoes. By the time he by the time he was taken in the postmortem, the shoes were gone. There is no record of them. The shoes could contain vital clues where Pandya went that morning. Pandya's cell phone, a grey flip-top Samsung, was recovered by the police from the car. The police either did not care to check or is hiding the data records from Pandya's phone that day. These could tell who Pandya called or was called by. These calls could again be a vital link in getting to the truth, but the records aren't there. When Pandya's mobile service provider Hutch was asked for the records, it produced manifestos from January in 2003. For the records of March 2003, it took a strange plea. They are too old, Hutch pleaded, but surely January and Feb came before March. Could the strange case of Mufti Sufyan, an accused in the case, be part of that cutout? Sufyan is a young cleric who made a quick name for himself making incendiary speeches of Ahmedabad's Lal Masjid. It is known that he had become more hardline following the 2002 violence, feigning counter-communal flames during his post-prayer discourses. It is also known that he had links with Ahmedabad's underworld, which lives off bottling. Sufyan is alleged to have played a role in contracting Asghar Ali for the Pandian hit. Within a week of a murder, while he was apparently still under watch, Sufyan slipped out of the country. Where to go? Nobody knows. Bangladesh, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Yemen, nobody quite open knows. The CBI elevated Sufyan to Rogues Gallery on its website and had Interpol repost a red corner notice for him. He was on paper, a wanted man, accused of the conspiracy to murder Pandya. Yet a year or so after the Sufyan's mystery and his mysterious escape, his wife and children managed to vaporize as well. They should have been under strict watch. They were the last clue we had to Sufyan's whereabouts, says a senior police officer. And yet they got away. How could that possibly be? Did someone help them out? Did Sufyan hold uncomfortable secrets? Was there a deal? The first time I met Jagruti Pandya was in 2010. Jagruti Pandya is the wife of Heron Pandya, दिमाग में रखिएगा. A little before I began my sting, and when I was still investigating the Sohrabuddin encounters, I had only seen her as a spirited woman on TV following her husband's death, demanding for a fair probe. She lived with her two sons and a father in an upper middle class locality in Ahmedabad. There was something very brave about Jagruti or Jagruti ji, as I began to call her later. Today, I can call her a dear friend whose brave struggle to find her husband's killers needs a standing ovation. Haran Pandey was a favorite of the RSS and LK Advani and many other BJP leaders, besides being a favorite of various police officers in Gujarat. While his role in the Gujarat riots is allegedly controversial, it's believed that many from the Muslim community were also fond of him. There was a sense of bitterness in Jagruti ji for Muslims, as one of them had allegedly killed her husband. As luck would have it, she chose to believe that Rana was a Hindu name. I found it very embarrassing to correct her and decided I would let her find out what my faith was once she came across my surname in one of my columns later. Every time she spoke about her husband's assassins, she would refer to Muslims as these people, and at times she would call them a violent plot. But from the moment I met Jagruti Ben, her conviction that the Muslim boys were used used by somebody powerful baffled me. Here was a woman who had lost her husband 8 years ago. Her younger son had almost no memory even of his father's funeral. Yet, besides making sure that her sons received a disciplined upbringing, she did not give up on her fight for justice, making sure, however, that it never affected her children adversely. Her younger son is a state level sportsman, and her elder son works for a private firm. Both stood by their mother like a rock, without any doubt about her conviction that there was a larger conspiracy at work that caused her father's death. Jagruti ji had pertinent questions about her husband's death based on the phone call records which she gave me and the details of the Mufti Sufyan and his family, whom she tried to meet. She had also brought up the detailed reports of the Sankarshan Thakur, referred to and accepted from above with me. I met her right after Amit Shah was sent behind bars, and when details emerged about Tulsi Prajapati, who was also killed in a fake encounter, having held critical information about Pandey's murder. In October 2011, months after I had returned to Delhi following my sting operation, I wrote an article about Pandey's killing, in which I asked some important questions. Why is it that Sufyan's father praises Chadusama, who was then with the Ahmedabad crime branch? Why did Charusama promise the family, if his father is to be believed, that no harm would come to them? Why the CBI? While the CBI, which has handed over the initial probe by the crime branch, claims it to have had a watertight case. A logical question that could be asked is why could the CBI team investigating the case and send a letter, a rogatory for tracing Sufyan? Second, the CBI investigating officer claims that Pandya's court records of March 2003 could not be found, while those of the two previous months were provided. These records, a copy of which is with Tehelka, show 40 calls made by female journalists from Ahmedabad. Surprisingly, neither the CBI nor the police quizzed her. Third, prime witness Anil Yadram, who runs a food cart near Law Garden and had alleged witnessed the murder and had allegedly witnessed the murder, has given contradictory statements. He told the police that he was too confused to react, but an hour later called the owner of his cart, who in turn called Pandya's associate, but not the police. When Tehelka met Yadram, he gave the three contradictory statements on all 3 days. On day one, he said Ali came on a bike. On day two, he said he saw him walking towards the car. On day three, he did not remember the chain of the events. Fourth, as per the forensic reports, there were 6 holes in Pandya's kurta, but only 5 bullets were found in his body. If he was sitting behind the steering wheel and a weapon was fired from the right window, which was part open, he should not have suffered any wound in the scrotum. The prosecution explained the judge accepted that he fell sideways on the passenger seat, but this seems improbable. And fifth, an FIR filed by the police control room log showed confusion or delay. With these loopholes and the changing stance of witnesses, it was only natural that the HC, in a shocking move, acquitted all 12 accused in the case last month, had also ruled that there was no evidence to prove that Ali had shot Pandey. I met Jagruti Ben on many occasions later. We would go on drives or out for dinner. She had found a confidant, and I had found a friend who gave me the strength to uncover the truth. I remember once meeting Jagruti Ben to get the charge sheet filed in the case of her husband's murder. It was the month of Ramadan and I was fasting. The moment I entered the house, she offered me some nimbu pani. I decided saying I could not. She offered to make me tea. No Jagruti Ben, और रमजान है ना, मेरा रोजा है, कुछ खा पी नहीं सकती. I told her. She looked stunned. Then and somehow managed to put together a few words. आप मोहम्मदन हो? मुझे पता नहीं था. She said, almost embarrassed at thought of having used uncharitable words for my community so many times in my presence. कोई बात नहीं, आपकी जगह मैं होती तो मुझसे भी भूल हो सकती है. आपके साथ जो हुआ है वो कोई माफ नहीं कर सकता. I reassured her. She sat with me, going through the pages of the charge sheet and call records, and diligently answered my questions. She explained that her husband had deposed before V.R. Krishna Iyer led Stevens' inquiry into the Gujarat genocide of 2002. It was a secretly arranged deposition, but she believed Modi had found out about it. Modi had various prestige issues with Heron, she insisted, which is why he disobeyed the BJP High Command and forced her husband to vacate his Elsbridge seat. Pandya, she said, had become a political thorn for Narendra Modi, as he had always been in the good books of the RSS and enjoyed their patronage. When I started getting ready to leave, she asked me where I was staying in Ahmedabad at around 6:30 in the evening on the same day, about 30 minutes before iftar, breaking of the fast. She called me. She was standing outside my hotel, waiting to take me to an eatery where I could break my fast. From that day on, Jagrati Ben became extremely protective about me. I know the state, she told me. You are working so hard to uncover the truth about my husband. It's my duty to protect you, especially with surname you carry. There was too there were too many officials involved in the Haran Pandey's investigation. CBI officials had taken over the case within days of the murder, and the FIR, as per protocol, was prepared and signed by the Gujarat police. I went through the FIR. The investigating officer was an inspector called Y.A. Sheikh, also mentioned in the news report above. Coincidentally, he was a friend of V.L. Solanki, who also has also been referred to with respect to Gita Jori. Sheikh did not meet his visitors and most certainly not the media person. I had not begun my sting operation yet and was in Ahmedabad after Shah's arrest trying to do my research. I met V.L. Solanki twice, who, after doing a background check on me, asked me to reach his residence. Outside his home was a police jeep with police constables on it, who provided extra security to him after he gave the statement against the Gita Johri. Solanki stood by every word that he said to the CBI, and then just before I was leaving, I casually asked Solanki if he knew an officer called Sheikh. Why do you want to meet him or know about him? He reacted sharply. Just thought I would meet him about a case I reported mildly. He smiled and then escorted me out of the house, saying, रहने दो बहन, वो नहीं मिलेंगे आपसे और आप ये सब में मत पढ़ो. Sheikh was scared of his colleagues and of the state because he had filed the FIR in the Pandya case. He was the one who was involved in the investigation before it was transferred to the CBI after Pandya's father complained that there was more to do the case which was being suppressed. There was a lawyer in Gujarat who knew Sheikh well and to whom Sheikh often went for advice. I requested him to arrange one single meeting with Sheikh. I asked him to play the religion card if need be, saying that I was a Muslim sympathetic to cops like him who were feeling suffocated under the current dispensation. At that time, I was staying at the Ambassador Hotel in Kanpur, a Muslim dominated area. Every morning and evening, the azan from the local mosque helped me in eating my sahri and iftar during Ramadan. Ambassador was owned by the Sindhi businessman. Right opposite Ambassador was a restaurant that was run by a Muslim, with others from the community frequented the place right after the breakfast, breaking the fast for tea and sefirs. This was the place where Sheikh agreed to meet me for the first time. I introduced myself, told him that I was a journalist who had provided the evidence in the Sohrabuddin and Tulsi Prajapati case that had sent Amit Shah behind bars. He told me he didn't need to explain all of us. Gujarat knew of a man called Rana Ayub. I laughed. Sheikh appeared very apprehensive. I reassured him that I was a devout practicing Muslim and how much I felt for those who had been killed in these riots. He responded मीकली, आप तहलका वाले हो, डर लगता है आप लोगों से बात करना, पता नहीं क्या रिकॉर्ड कर लोगे. I asked him to check my diary and bag, and he laughed in an embarrassment. I offered to meet him again and did not communicate with him all through the next week. It worked. The following week, I met Sheikh again. This time, I to break his trust. It broke me from within. The guilt killed me. He knew who I was. I was Rana Ayub, the journalist who would keep all the information confidential. But here was a man who possibly knew the truth. It had been years since Pandya's killing, and there was no hope of any headway in this case. I thought of carrying my spy camera and recording his conversation, but to use it only when nothing else came my way. After my meeting with Sheikh, I made every possible effort to find that one bit of evidence. I even visited Mufti Sufyan's residence, but all they would do was praise the cops. They had clearly been tutored well. Sheikh spoke openly when we met the next time. Before I begin, let me tell you something. You are being shadowed by the Intelligence Bureau, the highest authority in the IB. Question: State IB or Central IB? Answer. State IB. He told me that you were visiting me. They have come to know that you visited me, so they asked me to be careful. This is their job. So I'm telling you to be careful. Question. But why would they be against me? Answer. You know, this Heron Pandey case is like a volcano. Once the truth is out, Modi will go home. He will be jailed, not go home. He will be in prison. Look at this. 2 days after Jagrati Pandya's plea to look into the Azam Khan's statement in the Heron Pandey case, he was shot at in Udaipur. He survived, so he was threatened and politically pressurized. Question. But I am really intrigued. How did the IB come to know about me? Answer. Madam, because the IB works for Mr. Modi. Why don't you sting the witness Anil Yadram? Question. But why? What will he have to say? Answer. Are he will say this real story. Who approached him first, what he knew, and what he was asked to say. Chodusama was also involved in this case. He's hand in glove with many criminals. Chodusama and all the officers are doing all this with inspectors like Barrett. Barrett is the inspector, low-level guy who does all the paperwork. Why did the witness Anil Yadav give us wrong statement? Answer. Madam, they tutored him in custody. They had Asghar in custody before the assassination. So they tutored him. After the assassination of Mr. Pandey, they wanted to plant Asghar Ali and they needed a witness. Question. Why did they have to keep Asghar in detention? They had to put the blame on any Muslim henchman. He was in illegal detention. What will he say later in his defense? And you don't need Asghar Ali's confession. All they need is evidence. Question. So are you saying that Tarun Bharat, Chandusama and Vanzara were complicit in this? Answer. Yes. Kanaya just narrated that he was going in a car and he saw Haran Pandey lying in a car. Sushil Gupta, the CBI officer, approved the concocted story of the Gujarat police. Gupta resigned from the CBI. He is now a lawyer and with the SC. He is on the payroll of Reliance. Ask him why did he resign from the CBI. He sits in the Supreme Court. Meet him. Question. So the CBI did not do its investigation. Answer. It just did patch up. It bought the entire theory given by the Gujarat police officers. Question. Is it a political murder? Answer. Everybody was involved. It was at Advani's behest that the case was handed over to the CBI because he was Narendra Modi's mentor. So to clear him, I mean people will not buy the story of the local police, but they will buy the story of CBI. Mufti ran much later. Question. Whose role was there? Barrett or Vanzara? All three. Barrett was somewhere close to, and Charusama was brought on deputation. They had got Charusama. He works for the government. There is a Porbandar connection in this encounter. It's a blind case. They have just fit Asghar Ali and the witness. The investigation was done by this crime branch, and nobody believed the investigation, not even Vittal Pandya. Why did CBI buy it? The CBI rescued Modi in this case. As we say, the some statements do not need any explanation. The man who allegedly shot Haran Pandya, Asghar Ali, is in a prison in Hyderabad. The other boys who were arrested were from Andhra Pradesh and also had connections with those involved in Tulsi Prajapati case and Sorabuddin case. So who exactly killed Haran Pandey was Sheikh indulging in hearsay. The question is, why would he? He was the investigating officer who had signed the relevant papers. He was the one who had conducted the initial investigation, followed by the average Chadosama, who was later arrested by the CBI. Why were Sorabuddin and Prajapati killed? Till the day, the motive is not very clear. Why is it that Mufti Sufyan who was the mastermind of the Heron Pandey assassination, according to the CBI charge sheet, managed an easy escape from the state to the neighboring country? Why was Sufyan's family so thankful to Abe Charasama, who is charged for having fixed innocence in fake cases? Heron Pandey, one of the most loud home ministers of Gujarat, had allegedly expressed his desire to appear before a citizens' tribunal in Gujarat riots case. Is this truth hidden somewhere in this offer? It's time we blew the lid off this maze of injustice and conflicting evidence. Last Wala chapter, disclosure. I had moved back to Mumbai after the investigation and right after got a call from PC Pandey if I had wrapped up my research in my film. He suggests that I meet the CM. I jumped at the opportunity. I sent a mail to my seniors and Shoma and Tarun gave me an immediate go ahead. They also arranged for Mike to be sent to Ahmedabad one last time to assist me. Mike's parents were in Delhi to visit him but he somehow found an excuse to be in Ahmedabad for a day. I had explained to Mike that there would be strict frisking at the CM's residence and we had to go there because not doing so would invite PC Bandey's suspicion. For the sake of record, I wore my watch, which had a camera attached to it. We had taken a local tourist's car that day. Since I was no longer staying at the foundation at this point, I had again asked for the keys of that desolate bungalow on SG Highway for a day. Mike and I had reached Modi's Gandhinagar residence at an hour early, so we asked our driver to park our car close by. We waited for the clock to tick faster. I was nervous while Mike kept smiling. My concern was that if the camera is in my watch caught the attention of the security check and the metal barriers, we were done for. Half an hour later, when we walked into the CM's residence, I breathed easy when I walked through security camera without being caught. Modi's OSD Sanjay Bowser met us. We were finally escorted to the CM's room. He stood up to greet us. Mike exclaimed that he had seen his posters in the autos in Ahmedabad and was very impressed with his popularity. On the table were two books on Barack Obama. So, will you be the next PM, sir? I asked immediately. He blushed and started to speak about Barack Obama, who was his inspiration, and the virtues of Swami Vivekananda. After a 30-minute chat, the CM called Bowser to his room and asked him to show us the material that had been written about him. Bowser took us to his cabin. On his table were printouts of the stories published by Tehalka and Hindu on the CM. I inquired about them, to which Bowser replied that the CM had too many enemies. I think I almost heard Mike chuckle. Later, we were shown in the various books of the CM had authored and made listen to recordings of his speech in India and all around the world. Bowser asked me to get a copy of all of them as it would help me in getting the filmmaking. I said I would do on my own on my next visit. We went back home and Mike packed his bags. We had a flight. He had a flight to catch to Delhi. I hugged him, so I called him in a cab to the airport. Minutes later, Mike called to tell me that he could not locate a single rupee in his pocket when he reached the airport, and the taxi driver did not just waive the fare but also gave the 200 for his journey. Mike said this was what he wanted to take away from Gujarat. I agreed wholeheartedly. That was the last time I saw Mike, and I'm sure wherever he is, he will remember Meetli, his older sister and comrade in arms. I called up Shoma and gave her the details right after. She asked me if I had questioned the same about the riots. Come on, Shoma, that was my last visit. That's my last thing I would do on my first visit, I retorted. Later in the evening, I got a call from Shoma saying, "Come back to Delhi, Rana." I had just started to protest when she said she would explain once I was back. The next morning, I reached Delhi and went straight to Tehelka office. I had transformed the footage of the Modi recording onto my laptop. Torun was in his cabin. Shoma joined him. I showed them the footage and they laughed, looking at the books by Obama. So was I called back? I asked. His office will call me in a few days and I'm supposed to meet him again. Torun said, "Look, Rana, after the Tehelka sitting on Bangaru Lakshma, they shut her office. Bangaru is all set to be the most powerful man. Oh, sorry, Modi is all set to be the most powerful man, the PM. If we touch him, we will be finished." I was not convinced. Was the entire sting operation not a big risk in itself? But I was given a sharp no to every argument. The same evening, Sanjay Bowser called me. I left the phone ring. He called three times, then left a text that the CM would love to see me the following day, Sunday. I went to a local PCO and called Bowser to tell him that I was in Delhi and that a relative had passed away and I was required by in the city. I reassured him, however, that I would get back to him in a week's time. 2 days later, I removed the Uninar SIM card from my phone, crushed it, and threw it away in dustbin. I did the same with the phone. Meatly made an exit forever that day. The editors took a call that the investigations would not be published. I have remained silent since till now. That's it. That's the book. If you are still here, Ainan, Cinnamon, अगर आप अभी भी यहीं पे हो आई गेस आप लोग सो गए हो। हेलो 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 हेलो। अरे हैं यहाँ पे कोई कि सो गए हो सब? आई गेस ओके, सिनेमैन इज स्टिल हियर। अरे बढ़िया। सो सिनेमैन दैट्स द बुक। बुक खत्म। गुजरात फाइल्स इज डन। सो व्हाट डू यू सजेस्ट, क्या पढ़ें इसके बाद हम? कल परसों? हेलो सिनेमैन, क्या सजेस्ट कर रहे हो बताओ? एनी सजेशन, ऑप्शंस? यार मैं आई वाज जस्ट थिंकिंग कि कुछ ऐसा पढ़े विच नॉट ओनली गेट्स इंटरेस्टेड बट थोड़ा सा वो अट्रैक्ट करे, बिकॉज वॉच आवर्स के लिए वी नीड ऑडियंस इफ पॉसिबल। मैं सोच रहा था कहानियां पढूं, वैसे जैसे पहले पढ़ता था। कहानी, स्टोरी, हिंदी स्टोरीज, उर्दू स्टोरीज, दैट अट्रैक्ट्स पीपल और लोग रुकते हैं, क्योंकि वॉच आवर्स तो हमें चाहिए ही चाहिए। आई थिंक इट्स टू लेट, क्योंकि फिर उसके बाद वंस वी कंप्लीट वॉच आवर्स, जो कि 4000 आवर्स, अभी हमारे पास 700 घंटे हैं, तो हमें 3300 आवर्स लाने हैं एट लीस्ट। तो 3300 आवर्स मीन्स अ लॉट ऑफ मेहनत। तो मैं क्या सोच रहा था कि कहानियां पढूं, लोग रहे और सुने। अगर हमारा वो कंप्लीट हो जाएगा, आवर चैनल विल गेट अ ब्लू टिक, टिक मिल जाएगा, ऑथोराइज्ड चैनल। ठीक है, फिर मैं इनका जो हमारे यहाँ शायर हैं, कंटेम्पररी शायर, उनका पोस्ट कर दूंगा धीरे धीरे। ठीक है ना? उससे क्या होगा, दे टू विल गेट अ प्लेटफॉर्म, डिजर्विंग प्लेटफॉर्म। ऐसे मेरा जो प्लेटफॉर्म है छोटा मोटा मतलब कोई आता भी नहीं है सुनने के लिए, इसीलिए दैट्स व्हाई आई एम सेइंग। चलो, टेक केयर, अल्लाह हाफिज।